This is the RPM Friction Pro. It's being advertised as the paddle that shouldn't be legal. Their claim apparently worked as all three shapes are sold out online, but does it live up to the hype? Let's find out. As a reminder, this is a first impressions review, not a full review. I played with this paddle for a few days, so I don't have insight on long-term durability. I'll be rating this paddle on my pickle list at the very end, so stay tuned for that. Shout out to Premier Racket Sports for letting me demo this paddle. Check them out if you're in the Atlanta area. Also, if you do decide to get an RPM paddle, use code PICKLELEE. The RPM Friction Pro comes in at $250. $212 with code PICKLELEE. That's about $30 less than its most obvious comparison, the Joola Pro 4s. The Friction Pro and the Pro 4s look very similar, even the same colors as the Perseus version. I've heard that James Ignatowicz claimed to take 80% of the construction from the Joola Pro 4s, with his main change being adding stability to the throat. I tested the 14mm elongated version. I also played a game with the 16mm version, but I'll go over the differences later. Kind of like the Joola, there are some inconsistencies with the grittiness of the paddle. The one I'm currently holding is a lot less gritty than the one my friend had, which is 16mm. My paddle came in at 7.85 ounces, which is really light. Doesn't feel that way personally, but maybe it's because it's elongated. Now let's get into how it actually played. This paddle definitely packs a punch on the counters, but what I did enjoy was it wasn't overly poppy on the out of the air dinks and resets. So I would say this is less poppy than the boomstick, for example. If I had to guess, it's probably around the same poppiness as a Pro 4. What surprised me the most was the control aspects of this paddle, given that it's one of the more powerful paddles on the market. As many of you may know, I add weight on most of my paddles, and in my reviews, I typically test with and without weight because I usually find the weighted versions to perform better. The Friction Pro, however, already played well stock and didn't really need weight in my opinion. Resets popped a bit higher than normal, which is expected for a power paddle. I just never felt like it was uncontrollable or something that a little bit of drilling or extra time with it couldn't fix. There were a couple of times where I noticed the smaller horizontal sweet spot of an elongated paddle, but it played well for the most part. I really did like the feel of this paddle. It had enough dwell time where I didn't need to change how I played, which is typically more topspin focused. I didn't have much of an adjustment period, which is impressive for a paddle in stock form. The difference in feel between the 14 and 16mm options was pretty significant. As a caveat, my 14mm right here was in true stock form, and the 16mm I tried had an overgrip and a little bit of weight like right here. But what I noticed was that the 16mm option was way more muted, especially in comparison. But for what it's worth, the 16mm option is the more popular one as of now. Regarding power, this is towards the top. Serves and returns were easy. I could get them deep pretty consistently. In general, I felt like my shots were hitting harder and they were staying in, which is always nice. People also did mention that my drive was really good with this paddle, but keep in mind that in addition to this being a more powerful paddle than what I'm normally using, it's also elongated, which is typically better for drives. Now to rate this on my pickle list. I won't go into too much detail this time. Essentially, my pickle list is a way to quickly see which paddles are the best, and it's powered by community-driven ratings. So I need your help to make it more accurate. Anyways, just for example, the E6 Suitor 16mm is the #1 paddle, but it only has 1 rating. So not the most accurate because of the lack of ratings. Eventually, I hope to make a minimum of 10 ratings or whatever number I want. Now going to the most popular section, the Selkirk Boomstick Elongated 16mm has 9 ratings with an average of 7.9. So with more ratings, you can see it gets a little bit more average, I would say. I would assume an 8 would be a really good paddle on average, with like a 5 being pretty bad. Now back to the main point. So I'm gonna search for RPM. So currently the RPM Friction Pro 14mm is rated a 9.5 with 2 ratings. I'll give the RPM Friction Pro 14mm a 9 out of 10. And I don't own this paddle, so I'm gonna put the played with option and save it to my list. So now the paddle is a 9.3 out of 10 with my rating being a 9 out of 10. In my opinion, I played better with this paddle than the Pro 4s. I guess James Ignatowicz's innovations actually worked. It could have been from me getting better over time, which may or may not be true. But overall, I did enjoy playing with this paddle a lot. And the fact that it was elongated, which is not my normal shape, and in stock form was just very impressive. I am curious how the wide body would play because this one already plays so well. One last thing about durability, although I don't think it core crushed when I played with it, apparently one of my friends core crushed his at the top and it was after 3 weeks. RPM has a typical 6-month warranty, but they only allow one replacement paddle. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out my pick a list if you have a chance. It really means a lot. Also, join my Discord as well for the best pickleball Discord out there. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.